I'm probably going to put some Ocarina of Time 3D footage throughout this brief little discussion video, this speculation video. I'm working on a Zelda video, probably see that later this weekend. But, for clarification, this is not like a big edited video. I'm just going to be talking about, speculating about Nintendo's E3 2019. What should we expect? Now, this isn't my full-on predictions video. I'm still kind of waiting to see more details to get a better understanding of what maybe we should expect. But things are getting interesting. First of all, this video should be coming out this Wednesday before the 25th. It's the 24th. I don't think there's going to be a direct at this point. Maybe they announce it today. By the time this video is out, we'll know about it. Maybe. But assuming there isn't an announcement for a Nintendo Direct today, Wednesday the 24th, I do not think there's going to be a Nintendo Direct this April. Which brings us to May, the last month before E3, and then E3 starts in the beginning of June. As Brandon from What About Nintendo pointed out in a recent video, there likely will be some sort of Pokemon news towards the end of May or early June. That's how it always is every year. So I expect to get more information on Pokemon Sword and Shield a little bit before E3, a week or two before E3. That kind of happens every year. So that's kind of what's going to happen there. I think Pokemon Sword and Shield will also be featured at E3. We'll get Treehouse footage for it. It probably will be mentioned at the Direct or E3 presentation. But what about everything else? What should we expect at E3? Well, I think for sure we're going to be seeing Animal Crossing Switch, we're going to be seeing Luigi's Mansion 3, we're going to be seeing Fire Emblem, I'm sure Mario Maker will be mentioned, Link's Awakening, we'll have a date for that, I'm pretty darn sure we'll get a date for Link's Awakening, Astral Chain, Daemon X Machina. There's a lot of really good published Nintendo games that are coming out this year that I'm really excited about. But what about new stuff? New things? What should we expect? And that's kind of the big question mark, I think, because as I just mentioned, there are several games slated for the second half of 2019, it seems, and there's a lot. That's a lot right there, and there's still the speculation that Metroid Prime Trilogy and Persona 5 are coming, and then we have Dragon Quest XI-S as well, and there are several pretty big third-party games coming to Nintendo Switch, so things are looking quite stacked. Now, it's possible that we don't get Persona 5 or Metroid Prime Trilogy, but I think, considering all of the rumors and leaks and the listings and just common sense, I think it's very likely that these games are coming out this year. Persona 5, I would say, is like at a 95% likelihood. Maybe Metroid Prime is only like at a 50-60%, but I think there's a pretty good chance that we could be seeing Metroid Prime Trilogy this year as well. And if it's not mentioned in a Nintendo Direct before E3, it will be at E3. What else could we see? Well, there has been the talk about Microsoft and Nintendo working together. We got Cuphead for the Nintendo Switch. That's a Microsoft published game. It seems we're going to be getting Ori, and then the rumor is that we could maybe be getting Gears or a Master Chief Collection or maybe even a Rare Replay. I think those are all really good. I'm kind of thinking, or at least liking, the possibility of a Master Chief Collection and Rare Replay being announced for the Nintendo Switch at E3. I think Rare Replay could be coming out this year. And I also think that will come along with a Smash announcement for Banjo and Kazooie as one of the Challenger Packs. And in that Challenger Pack, we will get maybe Spiral Mountain as a stage from Banjo and Kazooie, and we will get a whole bunch of rare spirits, which is why we saw Blast Core and Jet Force Gemini in the earlier data mine for Smash Ultimate Rareware games, because this Challenger Pack has been in the works. So I do think Nintendo and Microsoft are going to have some pretty big announcements for E3 for the Nintendo Switch. I think we're going to be seeing Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Live on the Nintendo Switch. I think that will be a big thing for E3. None of this is confirmed, of course, but I do think it's really darn likely. I think it's going to make things really interesting. But at the end of the day, we're just talking about a DLC character and 2 old ports. That's what we're talking about right now. And it's really exciting, but that's what it is. A DLC character and 2 old ports. Is that really going to be the big surprise for Nintendo's E3 this year? It really might be. There are all these other published Nintendo games that are already coming this year that Nintendo needs to show off and talk about. We still have no gameplay for Animal Crossing Switch. We still barely know anything about Luigi's Mansion 3. We need to learn about these games. They're coming out this year. Pokemon Sword and Shield, like I said, we'll probably get more information about that towards the end of May, and then Pokemon Company will take care of spreading and sharing information about Pokemon Sword and Shield throughout the year. I'm not worried about Pokemon Sword and Shield. But when it comes to Animal Crossing and Luigi's Mansion and Astral Chain, those are the games that we're going to learn more about at E3, at an Nintendo Direct, say September time. It's important that we get information for these games, so they're going to be a big part of the show. I'm pretty confident in saying that. But will there be anything new? Well, usually at E3s, even though Nintendo does focus on the games that are coming out in the current year, they still usually have a couple games that they show off for the next year. So I do think we'll probably see a couple other little surprises. I'm not necessarily expecting the next 3D Zelda or the next 3D Super Mario game to be shown off at E3. I don't think that's likely at this point, but you never know. There have been talks about a new Zelda coming out next year, and we still haven't got any DLC for Mario Odyssey, so maybe they just abandoned the whole DLC idea and they're working on a sequel to Super Mario Odyssey, kind of the same way how they worked on a sequel for Mario Galaxy back on the Nintendo Wii. We could be looking at a similar situation. But that doesn't mean we're going to see it at this year's E3. I think both Zelda and Mario could be shown off and be the big games for next year, possibly. And that would be incredible if that actually happens. I also don't expect to see Metroid Prime 4. They just restarted development at the beginning of this year. I doubt they have anything to show. Maybe they could show off their demo or something, but I really don't think they're going to be doing that. Metroid Prime 4 is probably at least 2 years away, so I'm not really expecting that at this year's E3. So then, is there going to be any sort of game that appeals to the hardcore Nintendo gamer that isn't casual like Animal Crossing, that it's kind of like a AAA effort that could be maybe be a Game of the Year candidate that's coming out this year, published by Nintendo? I'm personally very hyped for Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm a little bit interested in Fire Emblem. I think Astral Chain looks amazing, but I don't think any of those games are going to be Game of the Year contenders. So what could it be? Could maybe Pokemon Sword and Shield be that big of a game? I think it's going to be the biggest Pokemon game yet, and we're going to learn more about it as the year goes on. But I still think it's probably not likely the Pokemon Sword and Shield will be a Game of the Year contender. I don't think any of these games are going to quite measure up to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate or Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey. So then, does that mean we won't be seeing a game like that this year? I think it's fairly likely, and it may not even really matter. We talked about it in the podcast, Shifty said it himself, Nintendo may not even care about that. They're going to get a lot of sales from Pokemon and Animal Crossing and all of their other games, along with a potential revision for the Switch Mini and the Switch Pro. So they may not need it. But we have been getting teases from Retro Studios lately, and it may finally be time that we get to see what they've been working on all this time. Sure, they just started Metroid Prime 4, but with the whole painting with Reggie's retirement from Retro Studios and the metal hand, it seems really likely that Retro Studios will finally be revealing their game. I think it's fairly obvious that they are intentionally teasing what they're working on, and it's going to be revealed really soon. That metal hand is really, really interesting. I like the idea of Retro Studios coming out with a new IP and it being a 3D platformer. If it's a 3D platformer along the lines of a Super Mario Odyssey, or maybe kind of more along the lines of a Donkey Kong 64, except really good and in the modern era, that would be amazing. I think people would be thrilled and I would love it. Heck, I kind of joked about the idea of maybe that metal hand being for a Metal Kong, Clanky Kong or something, as we joked about in the podcast. That'd be kind of funny to see if we're getting a 3D Donkey Kong game and that's just the Metal Kong mascot or something. That's just a joke. I think it's more likely a new IP, and I'm at least thinking that it could be a new 3D platformer. But I'm going to throw out one other idea. I've mentioned it before. But what if we're going to see some sort of Earthbound or Mother announcement this year? Finally. Maybe it could happen. Maybe Retro Studios has been working on some sort of Earthbound Mother game. So instead of it being a 3D platformer, what if it's an RPG? They did the first-person adventure, they did a 2D platformer, so maybe they're going to do something else. And that's why I've been saying 3D platformer, because they've done the platforming with both Metroid Prime, it has platforming in it, and of course Donkey Kong Country, but maybe they could do a 3D platformer. I would really love to see that. But if they do perhaps bring back Earthbound, I don't think that would be a platformer necessarily, it'd be an RPG, maybe some platforming elements, but that would be really cool to see as well. And if you think about it, Retro Studios brought back the Metroid series, they brought back the Donkey Kong Country series. It's kind of in their namesake, Retro Studios. They bring back the retro. So what if they're bringing back another dormant Nintendo franchise? What if it is Earthbound, right? What if it is Star Tropics? I don't know. I'm not sure what a metal hand could really fit, but actually when I think about it, the Earthbound series could have a character that is metal. Like, I don't think that's that much of a stretch. Now, do I think it's for sure an Earthbound kind of game? No, this is just me spitballing here. I would love to see that, but it could also just be a new IP. Retro Studios probably has wanted to work on a new IP for years, and maybe they're finally doing it. I guess we're going to be finding out at E3. So to sum up my thoughts, I'm thinking we're going to be getting updates on all of the games that are already slated for this year. We're going to be hearing about the next Smash Bros. DLC, and I think it could very likely be Banjo and Kazooie. I think maybe we'll also hear about a Master Chief Collection and a rare replay for Nintendo Switch. And I think Retro Studios is finally going to reveal their game. And I like the idea of it either being some sort of new take on the Earthbound series or a new IP being a 3D platformer. Oh, I almost forgot, Metroid Prime Trilogy as well, if it's not announced and coming out before E3, which is unlikely at this point, definitely at E3 if it's real and coming out this year. And of course, we're going to see the Switch Mini and the Switch Pro to some capacity, or at least one of them, definitely the Switch Mini at E3. The Switch Pro, we may have to wait a little bit longer for that, I'm not entirely sure, but those are kind of my thoughts going into, I guess, late April. And we'll see how things turn out. This isn't my official predictions video, but, you know, it's my speculation. At this point, more evidence is sure to come, and maybe we'll get an even better idea of what's going to happen a few weeks from now. But anyways, everyone, that's just my personal speculation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I'll see you all really soon. Bye.